Okay, my video got cut off, but we're back in action. The Creator doesn't care if you live the default life. Creator is not interested in what kind of life you live. That's up to you. But if you don't do this work, this is the life that you're guaranteed to have. Now, if you had a great family, if you had a great childhood, if your family is doing great financially and they're pretty healthy and they're pretty happy, that might be fine for you. You might not need to do any other work. Or maybe you need to do very little work. Maybe you spend a year on the path and some of the concepts or habits become part of your lifestyle and that's it. You don't really need to do a lot of work. It's very possible. For most people, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. For at least most people that I've worked with and I've come across. Even people who think they've had a perfect life have work to do. So not a lot, not as much all the time. And I have to rephrase, they don't have work to do. They don't have to do the work, but there is work that can be done. And to avoid living this default life, so to avoid living the financial struggles or the relationship struggles or the chronic illness or the chronic disease or whatever kind of default genetic life has been, hereditary life has been passed on to you, you can change it. And so here's how it kind of works to change it. So again, we got to use our imagination here. So let's imagine that thoughts are actual thought patterns. That there's some kind of pattern that's happening. Maybe you think you don't deserve love. Maybe you think that you're not good enough. Maybe you think that you'll fail. Maybe you think that nothing you ever do is going to work out. My apologies for the focus, everyone. Hopefully that's not annoying you too much. So we have thought patterns. They're thoughts that are patterns that consistently happen. Now, you're thinking, oh, I look good in this shirt today. That's not a thought pattern. But if you think, I look ugly in this shirt every day, that's a thought pattern. And a belief system is a variety of different beliefs that maybe don't seem related, but actually are related based on an incident. And I'll give some examples shortly. A belief system is a set of beliefs that are maybe related and maybe don't seem related at all, but are related in a deeper level. And then we have what I call pain entities. Now this is a new term that I've just been using lately. I used to use the term viruses to explain this, but I've stopped using that term and I'll explain why. In ancient times, pain entities were considered demons. They were considered intrusions. They were considered beings or entities that would attach themselves to us and make us crazy, and we'd have to do an exorcism or something to get rid of them. Well, pain entities are entities in a very similar way, living information that gets attached to us, it gets attached to our emotional body and inspires our behavior. Now this is shamans have known this for thousands of years. And some of our religious systems kind of explain it in some ways. Some of our healing systems explain it in some ways. I think of it almost like computer viruses. They get into your system and they cause it to behave in ways that you don't want it to behave. And so pain entities lock themselves into belief systems. Belief systems inspire thought patterns. And thought patterns influence our words, habits, and our behavior, which then go out and reflect back a reality to us. So let me make it real for you. I'll give you a basic example, then a little bit of a more extreme example. So let's imagine that, okay, is it focused? Yeah, okay, it's focused enough. Let's imagine that a little girl came home and she had an 85 on her math test and she was so excited because maybe she got the second highest mark in the class. Okay, is that focused? Can't tell if it's focused from here. Let's imagine that she got an 85 on the test. She was so excited because she was the second highest mark on the test. It was a really hard test, and maybe she's in grade 3 or something. Well, she comes home, she tells mom and dad about the test, and the first thing mom and dad say is, why the hell didn't you get 100? So the little girl all of a sudden, thinking that she's good enough, based on what the teacher told her, based on what her classmates performed on the test and how they performed on the test, she thinks she's good enough, but now her parents have said, why didn't you get 100%? All of a sudden, pain is created. Pain stores in the emotional body. Belief systems say I'm not good enough. Nothing I ever do is going to be enough. I have to do more. I have to do better. I have to perform better to get my parents' love. I have to, and so on and so on. Lots of these core beliefs. Then thought patterns come up. You got to work more. You got to work harder. You can't take any time for yourself. You can't take any breaks. If I do this, I won't succeed. If I do this, I'll fail, etc. And then words, habits, and behavior begin to reflect that, which then create a reality of stress and overwhelm and not being happy and not being fulfilled and depression and anxiety and addiction and addictive behaviors and so on. So that's one example. Let's think of a more extreme example. Young child was sexually abused as a kid, let's say. Touched in an inappropriate way. But they didn't know they were touched in an inappropriate way because they didn't know it was inappropriate. So pain happens because the kid feels vulnerable, feels unsafe, but doesn't really know what's going on. So belief systems are created. One belief system might be created that says that whatever the gender was that hurt them is the person that is going to try to hurt them in their life. So maybe men will hurt them, maybe women will hurt them in their life. That's a belief system. Another belief system might be that they don't deserve real love, or that love is going to come with pain, or that love is going to come against their will, or that they're a victim, or that they should be ashamed for being sexually abused based on experiences they have later in life, and so on. Lots of belief systems happen. Thought patterns reflect that. I'm not good enough. I'm ugly. I'm disgusting. I once had a sexual abuse victim as a client who, and all my work is confidential, this has happened so many times that you'll never know which one I'm talking about. He was sexually abused as a child, and therefore from that point forward he sabotaged his appearance. Wore clothes that didn't fit him, gained weight, didn't take care of himself, lots of face hair, straggly kind of hair, and so on. He was sexually abused at 10 years old. At 10 years old, the pain was so intense of feeling vulnerable and feeling taken advantage of and just trapped, really abducted, that he created a belief system that it was his appearance that brought him that attention, that it was being a good-looking little boy that brought him that attention. And so the belief system was that I need to sabotage my appearance in order to push away would-be or possible predators. And then so the thought patterns are I'm ugly, I'm fat, or whatever, whatever the thoughts patterns that are that would come from that. And then the words, habits, and behavior would then reflect that, which would then send back the reality again. This can be as simple as a parent ignoring you while they're on the phone, and as complex as a parent beating the living shit out of you, once a week for the rest of your life. It doesn't matter how complex it is. It doesn't matter how simple it is. It affects us regardless. And this is the very basic system of how it reflects us. There's deeper parts of this system, but this is kind of how it works. This sort of represents a cross between our fire and our air element, or our spiritual and our mental body, because it's our words, habits, and behavior, but it's in action. So we're acting on them, we're taking action. So it's sort of a cross between our spiritual and our mental body. This is completely, pretty much mostly our mental body, although our emotional body overlaps the pain and the beliefs, because the emotional body locks in the pain and the beliefs. The mental body creates the beliefs and the thought patterns, and then the fire and the air, which is also the mental body still over here, kind of create the words, habits, and behavior, and then project them into the world through our fire element, through our choices, through our spiritual body, through our energy, through what we focus on, what we think about, and what we act upon. And that's sort of how we create our reality in a very super basic way, obviously. Pardon my ignorance. If you're a quantum scientist or an experienced spiritual leader and you can explain this in a better way, send me an email. I'd love to hear how I can improve the delivery of this stuff. Or if you think it's total bullshit, you can send me an email and tell me that too. I just might not respond to you. Every experience of reality is determined by our choices in the form of our thoughts, words, habits, and behavior, much of which is totally unconscious, like I told you earlier. So unprocessed pain, particularly in childhood, manifests in all of our elemental bodies in one form or another. In our spiritual body, I'll summarize as fire. It represents fears. It manifests as fears, phobias, procrastination. If you're somebody who doesn't move forward on their goals and you just don't know why, could be some illness in your spiritual body. What else do I have here? Pessimism, a lack of faith. It just sort of creates a fearful demeanor, really. Sort of afraid all of the time. In the air element, it manifests as, what society is currently calling limiting beliefs, patterns, self-sabotaging words or language or thoughts. It can store as language patterns or even mental illness. So mental illness is the inaccurate information about reality is what what we can think of an mental illness as an inaccurate information. So what's happening is the pain entities are connected to the beliefs, and the beliefs are connected to the thoughts, and the thoughts are interpreting the world outside. And then the pain entities are saying, whoa, we need to be afraid of that. So for example, if you were sexually abused by a man, maybe men are you're on high alert for men for the rest of your life, and you just expect men to abuse you. Maybe your father was abusive. You just expect that all men will abuse you subconsciously because there are pain entities that are creating that belief inside of you. So I'm going to erase these to move on to the next one, but if you need to keep watching this, I know it's hard to see maybe on the video. Hopefully you can make sense of what I'm saying here. So those are the fire body, or the spiritual body, is our fears, our phobias, our procrastination, our pessimism, our lack of faith overall. Our mental body, or our errors, our limiting beliefs, our patterns, our self-sabotaging habits, our mental illness, or the inaccurate perceiving of information, if you want to think of it a little less like an illness and more like a situation that's happening to you. In our emotional body, or our water body, I know I wrote the elements in the last list, it stores as emotional pain, emotional patterns, emotional illness like depression or sadness or anxiety or anger, any types of real serious emotional illnesses where you're not able to feel emotions. You're not able to feel the love that's around you. Even if you know logically that it's there, you can't feel it for some reason. These are the emotional, the ways that pain manifests in the emotional body. In the physical body, or the earth body, I mean, this one, I'm sure you're familiar with it. It manifests as tension. It manifests as chronic pain. It manifests as injuries. Now, this was the one that was hard for me to swallow. There were 2 injuries in my mixed martial arts fighting career that kind of sealed the deal for me. They really sort of shut me down. One was before my second fight, I tore a rib and it became a hematoma, and it really screwed me up. It messed up my mind in my second fight, and I lost the fight because I basically gave up. And then I had a pinched nerve in my neck that I almost lost full mobility of my right arm for a long time. I wasn't able to lift it up past here. And now looking back, having analyzed what was going on in my life at that time, it doesn't even surprise me that I had any type of injuries come up. Injuries are and sometimes our reality's way of stopping us, of showing us that what we're doing isn't really aligned. Fighting wasn't really aligned with me. Sometimes it's a form of self-sabotage. Sometimes it's a form of avoiding responsibility. It can be many things why we manifest these mental illness or these physical illnesses. Habits are also part of the physical body. So even our behavior habits, that the way we stand, the way we hold ourselves. So I used to have a habit of sort of standing like this, because as an MMA fighter, our shoulders were always forward like this, and I kind of was just standing like this from being on a computer all the time. I've had to learn, I'm still learning to improve my posture and end the physical pain. And then finally, in the astral body, which again isn't really a body, but it's really a way of our truth, it's our higher consciousness or our self, the way illness affects the astral body is by creating a feeling of duality, which most of us have had since we were born. Not many people are born knowing this kind of stuff, so most of us have experienced duality, separation, loneliness, disconnectedness, crappy relationships, and just a feeling of not belonging overall, just a feeling of not fitting in. Of course, that's all rooted in the other bodies, but that's the sort of how it manifests on the astral levels. We don't realize that we are a creator. We think that we're just human beings experiencing the pain and suffering of the world. So to fully heal ourselves, which I don't know if it's even possible to fully heal, but to move toward fully healing, we have to purge the elemental bodies. We have to purge these bodies of the pain that's stored inside of them. All of the bodies, the physical body, mental body, emotional body, spiritual body, and then as a result, the astral body then shines through most authentically and we become who we really are. So here's something I wrote in big letters on my paper, and I want to make sure I write it in big letters here too. Our behavior is all borrowed. The way we behave is 100% generated by our surroundings. The way you walk into your house is determined by your house. I mean, you're making choices, don't get me wrong, but it was influenced by your home. It was influenced by the layout of your home. But at a deeper level, our behaviors, like how we respond to money, how we respond to relationships, how we respond to health, how we respond to happiness, how we create in our lives, all of that behavior is borrowed. It's weird, I didn't center it and it's bugging me. All of that behavior is borrowed from the people in our lives. All of our behavior is borrowed from the people in our lives. I am not Ricky Goodall. You are not whoever your name is. That's not who you are. That's the character you're playing. That's the avatar you've created. That's the identity you've created based on a name that your parents gave you or your guardians gave you, and a bunch of identities you started to take on as your own, a bunch of behaviors you started to decide were part of who you are. You created your character unconsciously based on what people told you were and based on beliefs that you created about yourself based on your pain or pleasure in your past. And that's really it. Your character, there is no Ricky Goodall. Whoever you are doesn't exist. That's just a character you've created. Who you are doesn't have a name or even words to describe it. Our character is a combination of the programs. So our character equals our programs, which are our positive habits, or in the ancient times, our angels, if you wish, and our pain entities, or viruses, or intrusions, or in the ancient times, demons, if you wish. Our healthy programs act like angels in our life. They serve us. They work for us. They are the angels on a manifested level. On an unmanifested level, the angels are the elements, air, fire, water, earth. Sometimes they're manifested physically, of course, as well. The pain entities are the lower vibrational entities. The so-called demons are the viruses that are here to protect us until we become conscious enough to be able to protect ourselves. If you've got pain entities or demons from your childhood, they're serving you by protecting you from dangerous situations that look like your childhood until you grow to the point where you can actually not only protect yourself, but gain the wisdom and understanding to heal that pain. Once you gain the wisdom and understanding to heal your past pain, those demons will gladly leave you. Those pain entities will gladly leave through expression, through purging of some sort. Crying, laughing, speaking, journaling, writing, physical exercise, trauma release exercises, breathing, yoga, meditation, tai chi, qigong, endless ways of purging this information, endless ways of purging our pain entities. We each have a higher personality, or authentic self, or higher self, or Yeshua, or Christ, or God, or Buddhahood, or whatever you want to call it. We have a higher self that is hidden beneath the programming and the unprocessed pain. It's hidden beneath all of that stuff. The path is a system designed to help us heal and completely cleanse the elemental bodies so that we can become our authentic selves and therefore project a reality that reflects our most authentic selves. Now, if you've known me for a long time, and we've done any kind of work together, especially in the past. If you knew me in my mixed martial arts fighting career, if you go watch some of the old videos of me or even interviews of me, you'll see that I'm not the same person anymore. I'm not the same Ricky Goodall. I've transformed in so many ways, and I'm going to continue to transform in more ways and continue to live my most aligned self. So there are 5 stages that we go through to heal these emotional bodies, or these elemental bodies rather, according to the path. Now this stage is the stage that I've observed myself and my initiates go through. It's not any particular rule or the way other shamans or healers are going to go through it, but this just logically makes sense to me, this system. This is how it's come to me, this is how I've received it, and it makes sense. So again, I want to be clear that these stages are the result of initiation. You get initiated, then these stages begin. The first stage is based on the idea that you've had an incredibly wide-eyed opening spiritual experience. Maybe watching these videos is an incredibly wide-eyed, eye-opening spiritual experience for you. Maybe that's it. The initiation ritual that I'm offering in the program, maybe that's enough for you. Maybe you can find somebody to initiate you. That would be even better. In-person initiations are far more powerful and really activate our elemental bodies and get things moving for us. If you know somebody who can initiate you, it's tough because most of it's secret society. But if you know someone who can initiate you, a shaman, a healer, or somebody, that would be a great way to start. I offer one-on-one and group initiations only by invite and referral only. You can reach out to me. I can tell you more about how that works. So here's how these 5 stages work based on, again, my understanding. And each stage, which you might have already guessed, is associated with one of the elemental bodies. So the first stage is the awakening stage. This stage is associated with the element fire. The second stage is the awareness stage. This stage is associated with the element air. The third stage is the acceptance stage. This stage is associated with the element water. The fourth stage is the alignment stage. This is associated with the element earth. And then finally, we reach the ascension stage, which is associated with the element ether. Now, these stages happen in this order only philosophically. They actually happen more like a smorgasbord where they're all kind of happening at once. This isn't really a stage, this is an outcome of these stages. So the ascension stage is really an outcome of completing or greatly advancing these stages. I'm trying not to use the word complete because I'm not sure if you can ever complete these stages, but greatly advancing them to the point where you are self-sufficient. So the purpose of the path is to become self-sufficient in our healing, to not need outside healers, to benefit from them. Don't get me wrong, it's very powerful to work with outside healers, but to not need them, to be able to find the answers inside of ourselves, to be able to understand the roots of our pain, and to be able to figure out, why did I just get an illness? Why did I just get an injury? Why am I experiencing depression? Why am I experiencing anxiety? With understanding the path, you can not diagnose, but you can determine all that stuff for yourself. The path can take a lifetime to complete, depending on the level of effort you're willing to put into it. This is, according to the ancient shamans and alchemists, this is the great work. It's not called the good work. It's not called the okay work. It's called the great work because it's fucking greatly challenging. There's a lot of challenges to it. It's called the great work. It's intense. And so there are a variety of ways that you can speed up this process. And I'm going to go through the details of this process, what they mean throughout the next videos, and I'm going to give you a bit of a summary in a few minutes. There are a variety of ways to speed up this process that you'll learn in each stage. There are activities you can do, practices you can do, classes you can take, healers you can work with, practitioners you can work with, things like yoga and meditation, martial arts, and things that you can practice that will help speed up these processes. The most important way to speed up this process is, again, I'm going to keep saying it, through initiation. Initiation rapidly speeds this process up. What I've achieved in 3.5 years, almost 4 years since I've been initiated, is incomparable to the 31 years of my life before. Not comparable in terms of my advancement, my growth, and how I've created a happy, healthy life for myself. Initiation activates your elemental bodies. Now, not all initiation rituals or ceremonies or practices will tell you this. Some of them don't know. Some of them it's too deep in the esoteric wisdom for them to understand or even need to know, because the process happens in some of these other traditions without you really even knowing it. It's an oral tradition passed on from teacher to student. That's why it's so valuable, because the ancient stories of King David and King Solomon and Moses and Jesus and these other different archetypes throughout all of the different religions and practices, most of them have been initiated, anointed, or baptized to represent their death and their resurrection, their rebirth into the truth of what they are, and their baptism cleanses their sins. It activates their psychic gifts and initiates the divine healing process of surrendering to a higher power and recognizing who and what we really are. If you're interested in being initiated by me, I can offer initiation ceremonies. There is a cost. There's always got to be an energy exchange with this kind of stuff. One-on-one stuff is probably going to be the most costly. Group stuff's a little less costly. The initiation kit on the side, it's the most affordable option. And really, if you send me an email and let me know your situation, there's literally no price that's too small. Each stage carries the energy or the essence of these elements. That was a little bit abrupt. Send me an email if you're interested in the initiation. We can talk. I want to be able to help as many people as I can. My mission, my goal is to initiate 1 million people into the path in the next 10 years. No, it's not. My goal is to initiate 1 million people in the path in the next 2 years, and I would love for you to be one of those people. So please send me an email. My email address will be throughout this program. Moving on. Each stage carries the energy or the essence of each of the elements. So the awakening stage is very fiery, it's very focused, it's very intense, it's very electric, it's very exciting. You can think of this as your rock bottom, or as your true spiritual awakening, like your experience of miracles, your experience of like, holy shit, this stuff is real. It's a period like that. And it's also awakening to all of our suffering, and awakening to all of our pain, and awakening to all of the struggles that we've been going through in our life. It's an intense stage, very intense. The next stage, the awareness stage, is the intellectual stage. It's where we actually start learning about our beliefs. We learn about our habits. We learn about our makeup. We learn about esoteric wisdom. We learn about how our words, habits, and behavior create the reality around us. We start to learn about who and what we really are. It's the self-awareness stage, really. It's problem-solving stage. In the acceptance stage, we're moving into the expressive stage, where now we know what we need to do to heal. Now we're actually healing ourselves. We're expressing the pain. We're expressing the emotions. We're expressing the traumas. We're talking about our past. We're talking about our dreams. We're talking about how we really want to talk. We're expressing ourselves for who we really are. We're no longer hiding ourselves. And so this is an uncomfortable, vulnerable stage. It's the ripping open of our heart and showing it to the world. So it's a very vulnerable, intimate stage for some people. It's very flowing and creative, but also very triggering sometimes, and sometimes even explosive, because the emotions are coming out. The ancient alchemists said, tears are the decrystallization of hardened emotions. So the acceptance stage is really the unhardening or the decrystallizing of your hardened emotions. The next stage, the alignment stage, is the grounding stage. It's where we're becoming very disciplined, very deliberate, and present in what we're doing, and we start to serve the world. I'm, in my belief, primarily in the alignment stage, because in this stage we start giving back what we've learned. That's why my higher self has been pushing me so strongly to get this out in the world and just put it out there. So I believe that I'm here. This is also cleansing the physical body, cleansing the nervous system, cleansing the digestive system, cleansing the triggers, cleansing the habits, cleansing the addictions, cleansing all of that kind of stuff. You're just moving it all out of the body. It's an intense process. You're purifying yourself fully from the ground up. You're also serving deeply, so you're giving back in the world. You're donating, you're volunteering, you're putting yourself out in the world. You're creating connections. You're healing your relationships to your family and your parents. You're healing your relationships to your enemies. You're healing your relationships to everyone. The alignment stage is when fire, air, and water come together to manifest physical earth. So the alignment stage is where you start putting your money where your mouth is. It's where you start living in alignment with the reality. Focus. See, it just takes me out, but I can get back. It's okay. The alignment stage is where we're taking all of this and we're making it into real earth. We're taking everything, we're taking all of the suffering that we're now aware of and awakened to. We're taking all of the stuff we've learned about ourselves and the world and the universe and how we create our reality. We're taking all of the healing we've done, all of the expression, the confession, and all of the ways that we've healed our relationship to our family and people around us internally, and now we're taking it into the world and we're making it reality. Now we're creating the life that we believe that we really deserve. It takes a lot of courage in this stage. It takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of humility. It takes a lot of compassion for ourselves and for the universe as we move through this stage. And then finally we get to the ascension stage, which of course for me at this point is only a theory because I don't feel like I'm fully there yet. But it's a feeling of connectedness, of unity, of oneness, of love, of flow in life. And I say I'm not fully there, but that's not entirely true. In many times, many places I am there. Right now, I'm there. In this moment, I'm in the ascension stage. Something might happen tomorrow or later today or next week that kind of pulls me out of that stage a little bit so that I can heal something else that's still up here, but then I'll stay back down here again. Maybe you're able to get to this stage a lot in your life. The way how do we know we're not in that stage? Well, things aren't flowing. Things aren't working. A lot of pain, a lot of struggles, a lot of triggers, a lot of drama. That's how we know we're not there. The length of each stage will vary from person to person depending on their past, and depending on their efforts, depending on how much work they put in to doing this healing, how much humility they're having through the process. In the past, this type of information would only be showed to initiates. And at this depth, I don't know if it's ever been shown before because it's a deep interpretation. Initiation unlocks the hidden meanings and allows us to see the truth from an expanded perspective. If you're a dedicated student, I would suggest watching these videos a number of times to really absorb the concepts. And from this point forward, I'm going to be using examples from the fictional aspect, the esoteric or the mythological aspect of this system, based on a character called Aniel. So Aniel is a young man who's experienced a deep level of trauma in his life, and his dream is to become a shamanic warrior, to become a shamanic healer who's afraid of nothing, who has endless courage, endless compassion, wisdom, humility, and unconditional love for others. And he goes through his own journey, and there are 3 stories. The first story is the pilgrimage, and Aniel goes through this 5-day pilgrimage with a gatekeeper out into the sacred mountains, where he learns about each one of his elemental bodies, and he learns about the stages that he's going to go through when he gets to this mythical place called the Kingdom of Chrysalis, which is where his 5 mentors are currently waiting for him. And his 5 mentors are the warrior knight, the wisdom keeper, the medicine healer, the temple priestess, and the divine prophet. He's going to learn from these 5 mentors. He's going to learn how to heal his spiritual body, his mental body, his emotional body, his physical body, and connect to his astral body. So I'm going to be using different examples of this story throughout the next 5 videos that you're going to watch. This path is a formula and a guide to the miraculous self-healing and life transformation. It's honestly like a grocery list for enlightenment. If you want to reach what they call enlightenment in these ancient times, the shamans call it absolute happiness. I call it universal freedom. In Kabbalah, they call it the end of correction, the end of correcting our elemental bodies, or the end of correcting our beliefs and our habits. In Buddhism, they call it the end of suffering, or sometimes enlightenment. There are many terms for it, but really what it means is freedom, man. Freedom and love, being able to really experience an endless level of freedom and love around us. So this is really what to expect once you've been initiated. This is kind of like the next 5 videos are what you're going to go through if and when you decide to be initiated into higher truth, initiated into the truth of what you are. And this is kind of the system that you'll experience. Now, if you're not being initiated, you can still use this system to understand yourself better and to start healing yourself better. Again, it just might be a little more challenging, might take a little bit more time. Having a community, having a connection, having people that you work with that help you through this is vital and fundamental. Okay, so we're going to move into the next videos now. Before I get there, let me just say that the path is really a curriculum, right? It's a lifestyle. It's a university. It's a connection to your higher self, learning what works for you. The purpose of the path is to help you find your path, not for you to copy my path. My path is based on my life. Your path is going to be based on your life. The purpose of the path is to help you find a connection to your higher self. I'm going to be vulnerable right now. I'm going to share with you my dreams, what Mother Ayahuasca, what Creator, God, Higher Self has showed me about my vision for my future. And so my dreams, or the visions for my future, is to develop this path through my own application, my own life, into stories, into courses, into programs, into classes, to be able to put it all over the world, and to ultimately create treatment centers and transformation centers to help people heal from addiction, heal from trauma, heal from a life of crime, a life of poverty, a life of scarcity, a life of pain. My dream is to create transformation centers, to create treatment centers that use these concepts combined with ancient shamanic healing, modern medicine, and really out there concepts like quantum science and these other ideas that can help us fully heal ourselves. My dream is to use this to find partners that are going to help me make this into a reality. And this is my first step in doing that. So if that resonates with you, if you think you're in a place to be able to help me along this mission and to be part of the team that I'm creating, to keep in mind that this work is intense and that work's going to be even more intense. So I'm looking for partners who are serious about moving on this journey. There's an entire system to this that I'm not able to put in these videos because it's just too complex. There's an esoteric practice, a ritualistic practice. There are healing rituals. There are ways of applying this to ourselves and others that can help us move through this path rapidly. I have helped clients move all the way down to the earth element or the alignment stage rapidly, so quick, sometimes in months, because the healing work, when passed on to somebody else, is so much more powerful. My healers can do more for me than they can for themselves, and I can do more for others than I can for myself in some cases, because we all need a reflection to help us find out what unconscious crap is holding us back. And that's kind of how it works. We need other people. We need our community. We need others to help us in this process. So if you're somebody who would like to support this vision, support this mission. My mission is to really change the world. I mean, I believe that this system can change the entire world. I believe that if our religious leaders and our spiritual leaders could sit in ceremony with me or some of my colleagues and experience the miracles that we can create for them, they would see how easily this path can transform our world. And so let's get started. We're going to jump into the next videos now. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you very soon.